This story is found on a hieratic papyrus of the 20th dynasty, about 1200 to 1100 BC. It is written on both sides. The handwriting on one side differs from the handwriting on the other, from which it can be concluded that it is the work of two authors. The scripture is written in black ink, except for some sentences which are written in red ink. Hieratic is the running script derived from the hieroglyphs. The earliest example occurs in the First Dynasty. It was replaced by the Demotic in the last era of Egyptian history. This papyrus is not entirely complete, but the part containing the legend is fortunately undamaged. The content consists of magic forms against snake bites. When the magician wanted to be healed by magic, he recited an event from the life of some deity suffering from the same disease as the man patient who sought the cure. The words that healed the divine patient would also heal the sick human. The same thought occurs in the legend of the scorpions of Ishtar. King Ra was the creator of heaven and earth, of the gods, men, cattle, fire, and the breath of life, and he ruled the gods of men. Moreover, Ishtar saw his power, the power that stretched over heaven and earth, before which all gods and men bowed, and she longed in her heart for power, that by it she might be greater than the gods, and might have dominion over men. There was only one way to get that power. By the knowledge of this name, Ra ruled, and none but himself knew that secret name. Whoever learned the secret would belong, god or man, to rule over the whole world, and even Ra would have to submit to him. Fearfully, Ra kept his secret, and always kept it locked up in his chest, lest it is taken from him and diminish his power. Every morning Ra appeared in all his glory, at the end of his procession, on the eastern horizon traversing the skies, and in the evening they reached the western horizon, and King Ra sank to illuminate the deep darkness of the Duat. Many times had Ra completed that journey, so many times that he was now growing old. Ra was ancient, and the saliva ran down from his mouth and fell to the earth. Then Ishtar took earth and mixed it with saliva, and she kneaded the clay and shaped it and made it into the form of a serpent, the form of the great combed serpent, which is the emblem of all the goddesses, the royal serpent who on the foreheads of the Egyptian kings. She used no charms for incantations, for in the serpent was the divine matter of Ra himself. She took the serpent and hid it in the path of Ra, the way by which he travelled, as he passed from the east to the west horizon of heaven. In the morning Ra appeared with his retinue in all his glory, moving towards the western horizon, entering the Duat, and illuminating the deep darkness. Furthermore, the serpent put up her pointed head, and her fangs entered the flesh of Ra, and the fire of poison entered into the god, for the divine matter was in the serpent. Ra shouted aloud, and his cry echoed across the sky from the east to the west horizon. Across the earth he rang out, and gods and men heard the cry of Ra. Moreover, the gods who were part of his retinue said to him, "What's the matter? What's wrong?" Nevertheless, Ra did not answer a word. He trembled in all his limbs, his teeth shattered, and he said nothing, for the poison spread through his body, as Happy spread across the land, when the waters overflow her banks at the inundation of the delta. When he had calmed down, he called to those who followed him and said, "Come to me, you whom I have created. I am hurt by a painful thing. I feel it although I do not see it. Also it is no workmanship of my hands, and I do not know who has made it. Never, never have I felt pain like this. Never, never was a worse offense done to me than this. Who can hurt me? For no one knows my secret name, the name that was spoken by my father and my mother, and which is hidden in me, that no one should be able to bewitch me. I went out to look down upon the earth that I made. I was above the two lands when something I do not know what struck me. Is it fire? Is it water? I burn, I shiver, I tremble all over my body. Call to me the children of the gods, them, those who are skilled in medicine, those who have knowledge of magic, those whose power reaches to heaven." Then all the gods burst into weeping and wailing and wailing. Their power was of no avail to the serpent, for the divine matter was embodied in it. With them came Ishtar the healer, the mistress of magic, in whose mouth is the breath of life, whose words drive away sickness and awaken the dead. She spoke to King Ra and said, "What is it, O divine father? What is it? Has a serpent hurt you? Has a creature of your hand raised its head against you? Behold, it will be overcome by the power of God. My magic, I want to cast it out by means of your glory." Then King Ra replied, "I went down the established way. I was passing through the two lands, when a serpent which I did not see struck me with its fangs. Was it fire? Was it water? I am colder than water. I am warmer than fire. I tremble all over my limbs, and the sweat runs down my face as it does on the faces of men, in the blazing heat of summer." Furthermore, Ishtar spoke again, and her voice was soft and soothing. "Tell me your name, O divine father, your true name, your secret name, for he can live only who is called by his name." Then King Ra replied, "I am the maker of heaven and earth. I am the founder of the mountains. I am the creator of the waters. I am the light, and I am the darkness. I am the maker of the hours, the creator of days. I am the pastor at the feasts. I am the originator of the flowing rivers. I am the creator of the living fire. I am Khepara in the morning, Ra in the afternoon, and Atmu in the evening." However, Ishtar remained silent. She spoke not a word, for she knew that Ra had told her the names which everyone knew. His actual name, his secret name, was still hidden in his chest. Furthermore, the power of the poison increased and spread through his veins like a burning fire. After a moment's silence, she said again, "Your name, your true name, your secret name was not among these. Tell me your name, that the poison may be put out, for only he whose name I know can be healed by the power of my magic." Furthermore, the power of the poison increased, and the pain was like the pain of living fire. Then King Ra called aloud and said, "Let Ishtar come to me, and let my name pass from my breast to her breast." Moreover, he hid from the gods that were in his retinue. Empty was the boat of the sun, empty was the great throne of the god, for Ra was hidden from his followers and the works of his hands. When the name came out of the heart of Ra to pass into the heart of Ishtar, the goddess spoke to Ra and said, "Bind yourselves with an oath, O Ra, that you will give both your eyes to Horus." Now the two eyes of Ra are the sun and the moon, and men call them the eyes of Horus to this day. So the name of Ra was taken from him and given to Ishtar, and she, the great enchantress, called aloud the word of power, and the poison obeyed, and the power of his name healed Ra. Furthermore, Ishtar the Great, the mistress of the gods, the mistress of magic, is the capable healer. In her mouth is the breath of life. By her words she dispels the pain, and by her power she awakens the dead. The regions where night and deep darkness reign. The description of Ra's voyage through the other world is carved on the walls of Seti, the first's tomb. at Thebes. This is the excellent tomb discovered by Belzoni in October 1817. Its length is 330 feet, and it consists of long corridors, colonnades, and side chambers carved into the solid rock. The Book of 𝓈𝓈𝓀 is carved into the walls of Corridor 3, rooms 5, 6, and 10, and side rooms 11 and 13. Only 11 hours are given. The 12th hour, although often found on papyrus, is rarely chiseled. There are 2 readings of the sun's journey through the duat. One was called by the Egyptians themselves the Book of That, which is in the other world, 𝓈𝓈𝓀, but now it is called the Book of Gates, for in this the gates are more critical than the regions which they divide. For a comparison of the 2 books, see Budge, Egyptian Heaven and Hell. The Book of Gates is rarer than the Book of 𝓈𝓈𝓀 and is found chiseled in sarcophagi. The finest example is the alabaster sarcophagus of Seti I, which is now in the Soane Museum in London. The Book of 𝓈𝓈𝓀 is found on papyruses and tomb walls. The oldest example is Amenhotep II's tomb of the 17th dynasty. It is a compilation by the theologians of that era to unite several clear ideas about the other world and the life hereafter into a coherent whole. The 4th and 5th regions of the duat are a kingdom, ruled by the god Sokar, the Memphian death god. Since Memphis is an important religious center, his god of death and his kingdom had to be incorporated into the duat of Ra, even though it was a waterless desert and ended with the morning star. It was an era quite different from any other kingdom of the afterlife. No river flowed through it. It was inhabited neither by gods nor by spirits, but by, amazingly, great and hideous reptiles. Another morning star appears in the 10th hour, and the morning breeze seems to be felt by the goddess in the 11th hour, for they raise her hands to cover her faces. Budge, Egyptian Heaven and Hell, also mentions that the Egyptians viewed the red morning clouds as coloured by reflecting the puddles of fire. These indications that the morning appeared in the wrong place indicate that the book is a clumsy compilation. The first hour seems to have been added to get the story off to a good start. The last hour also unites different views. The most ancient idea of sunrise was that the sun was reborn every morning from the sky goddess Nut. This theory does not fit the dogma of the sun's nocturnal journey through the other world in a boat. Therefore, the last hour is presented as a dark and painful journey, symbolizing the womb of the goddess. The birth of the sun was the most important event of the day for its worshippers. The duat, or other world, was generally supposed to be the area north of Egypt, the delta for the Egyptians of the south, the Mediterranean, and its islands for the delta people. The Egyptians had abbreviated content for this long story of Ra's nighttime journey. It was always described on papyrus in vertical forms, in which all scenes and long speeches had been omitted. It gives every gate and every region, and of the gods of every hour. Sometimes, though not always, the names of the gods who dwell in the different regions, and always the magic words which Ra speaks to the inhabitants of every land. Happy outcomes here and hereafter are promised to all who know the words and images through and through. The Song of Praise to Ra is a paraphrase of songs of praise that still exist today. When the world came into being, there were 2 rivers, Egypt and the river in heaven. Great is the Nile, the river of Egypt, which springs beyond the cataract, watering the land of Egypt, and thus bringing joy and good crops to Tamari. Grand and imposing is the river in the sky, flowing through the heavens and through the duat, the world where night and darkness reign, and on the river sails the boat of Ra. Boat of the millions of years is her name, but people call her the Manzet boat. In the morning, when Ra rises in all his splendour and glory, on the eastern horizon of heaven, the Mesiktet boat she is called in the evening, when Ra gloriously enters the portals of the duat. Where Mount Manu soars, it peaks against the western sky. On the western horizon is Mount Manu, and on the eastern horizon is Mount Baku. They are tremendous and colossal. Their tops are raised above the earth, and the heavens rest on their tops. Moreover, in the highest peak of Mount Baku dwells a serpent. She is 30 cubits tall, and her skin is of flint and glittering metal. She guards the mountain and the great green waters, and no one can pass her except Ra in his boat. In the evening, Ra descends in all his majesty on the western horizon to the portals of the Duat at the gorge of Abydos. The Mesektet boat is beautiful, her decorations are beautiful, and her colors are like the amethyst and emerald, jasper and turquoise, lazuli and gold. At the gorge of Abydos, some gods are waiting to prepare the boat for the trip through the Duat, the land where night and deep darkness reign. The boat is stripped of its splendor, bare and without shine when it passes the portals of the Duat, and in the boat lies the body of Ra, lifeless and dead. Then the gods take the long tow ropes. Slowly the boat slides along the river. The gates of the Duat are thrown wide open, and the 12 goddesses of night take her places on the boat to lead them through the darkness and dangers of the Duat. They are pilots of the river, and without her, even Ra could not sail unscathed. Stream of Ra is the name of the first region of the Duat. This country is gloomy but not completely dark, for on each side of the river lie 6 serpents coiled up, and their heads erect, and the breath of their mouths is a flame of fire. In the boat's cabin lie Ra, dead and lifeless. On the prow are Upuat, the pioneer, and Sa, and the goddess of time. Close to the cabin is a company of gods. These are the ones who keep Ra from all dangers and the onslaught of the dreadful Apep. Slowly the boat of Ra slides through the Duat to places of deep darkness, horror and terror, where the dead reside and Apep awaits the arrival of Ra. Thus the first hour of the night passes and the second hour approaches. There is a gate at the entrance to each area of the Duat. The walls are high and narrow is the doorway. On the walls are spearheaded, sharp and pointed, so that no man can climb over them. The door of the gate is made of wood and revolves around a pivot, and a monstrous snake guards the door. No one is allowed to pass her except her to whom her name is known. At the end of the passage lie 2 giant combed snakes, one above, the other below. The breath of her mouth is made of fire and poison. Through the narrow portal, they send torrents of fire and poison from both sides. At each end of the passage is a watchman standing watch. Then the goddess of the first hour gives way to the goddess of the second hour, and she calls aloud the watcher's name at the gate. Wide the doors are thrown open. The fire and the poison cease, and the boat of Ra sails through. Ernez we call this second region of the Duat, but the Hanabus and those who inhabit the islands of the great green waters call it Uranos. The river is broad and carries 4 boats on its dark waters. They have no oars, neither masts nor rudders, but they float on the water and are carried by the current. Mysterious and strange are they, and the shadows in them resemble human forms. In this region, Ra is Lord and King, and those who dwell here have peace, for no one can pass by the great combed serpent that guard the gates, whose breath is a mixture of fire and poison. Happy are those who inhabit this land, for here dwell the spirits of the wheat, Besa, Nepra, and Tepuyun. These are the ones who make the wheat, and the barley grows, and make the fruits of the earth many. Slowly the boat of Ra glides through the Duat, through regions of deep darkness, terror and horror, where the dead reside and Epap is waiting for Ra to arrive. Thus the second hour of the night passes, and the third hour is near. Then the goddess of the second hour gives way to the goddess of the third hour, and she calls aloud the watcher's name at the gate. Wide the doors are thrown open, and the boat of Ra sails through. Stream of one god is the name of the third realm of the Duat, and here in fair Amentet is the kingdom of Osiris. On either side of the river are great forms of the gods surrounding the form of Osiris himself. He is seated on his throne in royal ornamentation, with the white crown of the southern country and the red crown of the northern country on his head. Great is Osiris, the god of the dead, for all who die must appear before him as their judge. and their hearts weighed in the scales against the feather of truth. His throne stands on flowing water, clear and deep, and from the water rises a single lotus flower, coloured as the morning sky. On the flower are the 4 children of Horus, who assist Osiris at the judgment and protect the dead bodies. To them belong the south and the north, the west and the east, and the 4 great goddesses are their protectors. They are standing on the lotus flower, and their faces are turned to Osiris. The first has the face of a man, the second the face of a monkey, the third the face of a jackal, and the fourth the face of a bird of prey. Now is the hour that evildoers fear. By their actions they are condemned, and nothing can help them. Nevertheless, some have been righteousness itself in the earth, who have harmed no man by deceit or violence, who have assisted the widow, the orphan, the shipwrecked sailor, who fed the hungry and the naked clothed, who have not stirred up strife nor shed tears. When these appear before the judgment of Osiris, and their hearts are placed in the balance, then the truth's feather is heavier. The bowl with the feather goes down, and the bowl with the heart goes up. Then Thoth takes the heart, and puts it again in the breast of man, and Horus takes him by the hand, and leads him to the foot of the throne of Osiris, that he may dwell forever in the kingdom of Osiris. Furthermore, only now can he see the very pure and indeed saints, Osiris. For the souls of men are incapable of partaking of the divine nature, so long as they are contained in bodies of passion. When they are freed from these impediments, and pass on to purer and unseen regions, only then does this God become their leader and king. On him they depend wholly, ever seeing without being satisfied, and ever eagerly longing for the beauty which a man cannot possibly express, or express himself to think. Slowly the boat of Ra glides through the duat, into the regions of deep darkness, terror and horror, where the hideous Apep lies awaiting the arrival of Ra, and where the ponds of fire are being prepared for the evil ones. Thus the 3rd hour of the night passes, and the 4th hour is near. Then the goddess of the 3rd hour gives way to the goddess of the 4th hour, and she calls aloud the name of the watcher at the gate. Wide the doors are thrown open, and the boat of Ra sails through. Living of the Shades is the name of the 4th region of the Duat, and Sokka has dominion over this land. The vast expanse of sand is desolate, the desert limitless, the melancholy and gloomy landscape. Not a blade of grass, not a tree or shrub can be seen. Nothing grows here, nothing lives there but the monstrous multi-headed snakes, which glide along the ground or crawl on legs. They are dreaded to behold as they twirl and twist and hiss and roar there. They raise their ugly heads and spread their dark wings. However, their malice does not count Ra, and he passes safely between them. The great river has been buried and has disappeared under the moving sand, and where it flowed is now a deep ravine. The rock walls rise high and steep, and the road twists and turns between the rocks. People call this place Resto, the mouth of the grave. Even in the bleak desert, Osiris rules. He is called Lord of Resto, therefore no one needs to be afraid if he goes along the narrow path. Furthermore, now the boat of Ra can no longer float on the water, but is transformed into a great and mighty serpent, with glittering skin. On the prow sits a snake's head, with watchful and fierce eyes. On the stern sits a snake's head with its fangs ready. She glides along the sand as a boat glides over the water. Slowly the boats of Ra slides through the Duat, through regions of deep darkness, terror and horror, to the place where Apep lies for the arrival of Ra. Thus the 4th hour of the night passes, and the 5th hour is near. Then the goddess of the 4th hour gives way to the goddess of the 5th hour, and she calls aloud the name of the watcher at the gate. Wide the doors are thrown open, and the boat of Ra sails through. Hidden is the name of the 5th region of the Duat, and in this dark and gloomy region dwells Sokka, his lord and king, the god of those buried. His dwelling place is deep underground at a bend in the winding road. Above it, a high mountain of sand rises. 2 sphinxes keep watch, They have the body of a lion and the face of a man, and their claws are spread out like the claws of a predator. In the center lies a serpent with 3 heads, and between its wings stands Sokar, in the form of a man with the head of a sparrowhawk. Wild and fierce like a sparrowhawk is Sokar, and dreadful is the punishment he makes to suffer those who have opposed him. Close to his table is a lake, where water boils and bubbles with heat, as the water boils in a kettle. On the other side of the ravine is a high and vaulted building, the house of night and darkness. 2 birds cling to either side, and a 2-headed snake winds around it. She raises her fierce heads, and her poison is always ready to strike the swift intruder who would venture to get past it. She watches faithfully, for in the house of night and darkness lives Khepera, the great soul of the universe, whose emblem is the beetle, the god of resurrection. In the form of a beetle, he awaits the arrival of Ra, and he flies on the boat, and there awaits the time when he will bring the god back to life. Furthermore, now a ray of light penetrates the deep darkness along the narrow passage. The morning star is standing at the gate to guide the boat on, for in the darkness of the night lives a promise of the day to come. Slowly the boat of Ra slides through the duat, through regions of deep darkness, terror and horror, to the place where the hideous Apep lies awaiting the arrival of Ra. Thus, the 5th hour of the night passes, and the 6th hour is near. Then the goddess of the 5th hour gives way to the goddess of the 6th hour, and she calls aloud the watcher's name at the gate. Wide the doors are thrown open, and the boat of Ra passes through. Abyss of the Waters is the name of the 6th realm of the Duat, and Osiris rules there. Osiris, the great god, lord of the city of Dadu, the living king, the creator of men, of animals, and of the green plants that grow on the earth. Osiris, to whom all men bow in praise and adoration. The river emerges from the sand again, and the boats float on its waters, and those in it rejoice, for the hours of the night pass. On the riverbanks are the great forms of the gods, mysterious and wonderful. 9 kings' scepter also stand there, and a monstrous lion emerges from the darkness, dimly lit from the light emanating from the boat of Ra. There are 3 temples by the river, and a serpent breathing fire guards them. Mysterious and strange are the things in the sanctuaries, and it is not given to man to grasp their meaning. In the one is a human head, in another the wing of a bird, in the third the hind quarters of a lion. Here also gives the great coiled snake with 5 heads, and in its coils lie Khepera, the god of resurrection. He puts the beetle on his head. Under his feet is the mark of the flesh. Thus he brings life into the dead, and thus he will bring Ra back to life. This is the most distant point of the Duat, and behind the gate is the road to sunrise. Slowly the boat of Ra sails through the Duat, through regions of deep darkness, terror and horror, where the hideous Apep lies awaiting the arrival of Ra. Thus the 6th hour of night passes, and the 7th hour is near. Then the goddess of the 6th hour gives way to the goddess of the 7th hour, and she calls aloud the name of the watcher at the gate. Wide the doors are thrown open, and the boat of Ra sails through. Secret Cavern is the name of the 7th region of the Duat. It is full of danger and distress because of the horrible Apep lives in this country. He looks like a great and monstrous snake. With a wide open mouth, he swallows up the waters of the river, that the boat may perish and Ra perish. Then the earth would belong to the powers of darkness, and evil and wickedness would conquer the gods. However, on the boat's prow stands Ishtar, the great sorceress, whose magic no one can resist. Ishtar, the greatest of the gods, can raise the dead, and to whom all men show love and reverence. With her arms outstretched, she speaks the words of power, crying out across the dark river. The snake Mehen wraps its protective coils around the body of Ra, for now the time of danger has come. The horrible Apep lies on a sandbank in the middle of the river. The sandbank is 450 cubits long. The twists and turns of Apep cover them so that nothing can be seen but the river around it. Loudly he hisses and roars, and the duet is filled with the thunder of his voice. But Ishtar does not shrink back, nor ceases to recite her spells, and the magical movements she makes with her hands conquer her spells, and the hideous Apep lies helpless on the sand. Then Selk and her Desuf jump from the boat of Ra and bind them with ropes, and with sharp knives they stab his flesh, hoping to destroy him. Nevertheless, Apep is immortal and waits every night to attack the boat of Ra. Still, Selk and her Desuf hold him while the boat makes her way along the great sandbanks, where he twists and turns and struggles to get free, but the ropes are strong and the knives are sharp, and his efforts are in vain. The boat continues to the cemetery of the gods. These are by the river. They are high mountains of sand. On every mountain there is a building, and at every corner the head of a man watches the passing of Ra. Softly, the boat of Ra glides through the Duat, continuing through the darkness until dawn and day. Thus the 7th hour of the night passes, and the 8th hour is near. Then the goddess of the 7th hour gives way to the goddess of the 8th hour, and she calls aloud the name of the watcher at the gate. Wide the doors are thrown open, and the boat of Ra sails through. Sarcophag of the gods is the name of the 8th region of the Duat, for the gods dwell here. They are dead and buried, embalmed and bandaged, as men embalm and bandage the dead on the earth. They call loud greetings to Ra as he sails by, calling to him through the vast space. But so far away are they that the sound of their voices is like the roar of wild bulls, like the cry of birds of prey, like the lamentation of mourners, like the hum of bees. Before the boat go 9 followers of the gods. Their shapes are strange, mysterious, and wonderful, like nothing on earth. Before they walk, the 4 souls of Titans in their guise of rams, large and fiery, with horns widely spread and sharply pointed. The first is crowned with soaring plumes, the second with the red crown of the northern land, the third with the white crown of the southern land, the fourth with the brilliant solar disk. Old is Tatanen, resident of Memphis, where Ptah's dwelling is on the south side of the wall. Softly, the boat of Ra glides through the Duat, moving through the darkness to the sunrise and the day. Thus the 8th hour of the night passes, and the 9th hour is near. Then the goddess of the 8th hour gives way to the goddess of the 9th hour, and she calls aloud the name of the watcher at the gate. Wide the doors are thrown open, and the boat of Ra passes through, where Ptah's dwelling is on the south side of the wall. Slowly the boat of Ra glides through the Duat, moving through the darkness to the sunrise of the day. Thus the 8th hour of the night passes, and the 9th hour is near. Then the goddess of the 8th hour gives way to the goddess of the 9th hour, and she calls aloud the name of the watcher at the gate. Wide the doors are thrown open, and the boat of Ra passes through, where Ptah's dwelling is on the south side of the wall. Procession of Images is the name of the 9th area of the Duat. Complete and robust, the river flows, and the boat is carried on the roaring stream. 12 star gods guard the boat, oars in their hands, ready to assist the boat in an emergency. There is no deep darkness in this land, for 12 great combed snakes lie coiled on the bank, and the breath of their mouths is on fire, shining on the dark waters, and on those who dwell in the Duat. 3 boats float on the dark river. Strange is the shape of these boats, not like the boats of men, and ghostly shapes in it look like a cow, a ram, and the soul of a man. From them, the inhabitants of this land receive the sacrifices that are brought to them on earth. Then the star rains begin to sing, and the 12 goddesses, and the weaving gods, and the inhabitants of this land sing the fame and glory of Ra, praising the Lord of the boat, the creator of heaven and earth. With joy and song, they follow the prescribed path. Forward the boat of Ra glides through the Duat, travelling towards the sunrise and the light of the entire day. Thus the 9th hour of the night passes, and the 10th hour is near. Then the goddess of the 9th hour gives way to the goddess of the 10th hour, and she calls aloud the name of the watcher at the gate. Wide the doors are thrown open, and the boat of Ra passes through. Abyss of the waters, high on the banks. is the name of the 10th region of the Duat, and its ruler is Ra. The inhabitants of this land meet their king as he passes by the rising river. Deep and full and robust the water flows, and the boat is carried on the roaring stream. Divine warriors armed with shining weapons of war form a bodyguard for their king. Light shines from their faces like the light of the sun. 4 goddesses sit on the riverbank. They cast rays of light into the darkness, thus illuminating the way of Ra upon the dark river. Before the boat of Ra moves a morning star in the guise of a 2-headed serpent walking on legs, and on her head are the crowns of the southern land and the northern land. Between its coils is the great sparrowhawk from the sky. Leader of heaven is her name, for the stars of heaven follow her, but call her Hesper and Lucifer. There is a snake in the sloop on the stream. She is called Life of the Earth, and she watches in the Duat against the enemies of Ra. This is the greatest of all the realms of the Duat, for in this realm of wonders and mysteries, Khepera connects with Ra, and Ra himself is created. However, the dead body of Ra remains in the boat, but his soul is united with the soul of Khepera. Forward the boat of Ra passes through the Duat, travelling towards the sunrise and the light of the entire day. Thus the 10th hour of night passes and the 11th hour is near. Then the goddess of the 10th hour gives way to the goddess of the 11th hour, and she calls aloud the name of the watcher at the gate. Wide the doors are thrown open, and the boat of Ra sails through. Opening of the Cavern is the name of the 11th realm of the Duat, and Ra is the ruler there. The river has fallen very much, and it flows slowly on. The gods pull the boat. Not with ropes do they pull her forward, but with the body of the great serpent, Mehen, the protector of Ra. There is a fiery star on the boat prow, but its light is no redder than the strange and fierce glow that fills this land. It is red, and the sight of it terrifies and horrifies. This is the area feared by the evildoers, for their punishment awaits them here. Far and wide are pools of fire. Goddesses whose breath is fire guard the pools, holding flaming swords in her hands. With her knives, they torture the wicked and throw them into the pits of fire, where they are destroyed. Horus stands by and sees their torments, for these are the enemies of Osiris and Ra, the evildoers of the earth, the blasphemers of the gods. No help can reach them, no escape is possible. They are doomed to the sword and fire by their deeds, and the smoke and fire of their torture rise in the Duat. And on the other side of the river are the stars. Shedu is in the form of a serpent. Scarlet and red he is, and the stars that make up his body are 10 in number. There is also a mysterious and excellent shape to be seen. She looks like a winged serpent with legs, and between the wings is the shadowy form of a man. People call him Atmu, an inhabitant of Heliopolis. Old is Atmu, older than Ra himself, and he sends the gentle breezes of the north wind into the land of Egypt. On either side of him, the eyes of Horus shine dimly, in the dim and pale light. Furthermore, now the morning wind is rising. Sweet and gentle he is, but with him comes the promise of the day. Forward the boat of Ra glides through the Duat, travelling towards the sunrise and the light of the entire day. Thus the 11th hour passes, and the 12th hour, and the dawn are near. Then the goddess of the 11th hour gives way to the goddess of the 12th hour, and she calls aloud the name of the watcher at the gate. Wide the doors are thrown open, and the boat of Ra sails through. Darkness has passed, and births take place, is the name of the 12th region of the Duat. On the prow of the boat sits Khepera's great beetle, ready to assist in the transformation of Ra before reaching the end of the Duat. This 12th region of the Duat is not the same as the other regions, for it is enclosed in the body of a great and monstrous serpent. Life of the gods is her name, and through this grand and colossal body travels the boat of the millions of years. 12 of the worshippers of Ra take the ropes and drag the boat on, and here in the body of the serpent, Ra is turned into Khepera and comes back to life, for now the journey through the Duat is almost complete. At the mouth of the serpent are 12 goddesses, To these, the worshippers of Ra surrender the tow ropes, and they draw the boat to the eastern horizon of heaven. Moreover, now the dead body of Ra is thrown from the boat, as the chaff is thrown away when the grain is sifted, for the soul and life of Ra are in the beetle of Khepera, and the transfigurations of Ra are completed. Here, in the serpent body, Ra is changed into Khepera and comes to life again. For now, the journey through the Duat is almost complete. At the mouth of the serpent are 12 goddesses. To these, the worshippers of Ra surrender the tow ropes, and they draw the boat to the eastern horizon of heaven. Furthermore, now the dead body of Ra is thrown from the boat, as the chaff is thrown away when the grain is sifted, for the soul and life of Ra are in the beetle of Khepera, and the transfigurations of Ra are completed. With shouts and singing, with joy and gladness, the boat of Ra emerges from the Duat. The 𝓈𝓈𝓁 is beautiful as she progresses towards the sunrise. Cast wide, open the doors wide and let the day in. Among the turquoise sycamores, the boat of Ra emerges, and Mount Baku glows with light. The serpent, the guardian of the great green waters, sees Ra in all its glory on the eastern horizon of the sky, and its rays shine on its epidermis. Delightful is the 𝓈𝓈𝓁 boat carried by the river, radiant in the splendour and light of the entire day. In the foam at the boat's bow, the Abtu fish frolics, darting through the glittering foam, and the antfish is seen in the vortex of turquoise. A jubilant note arises from the earth, for all creatures praise Ra at his coming. Hail thyself, O Ra, upon thy coming. The night and the darkness are over. You shine at the crack of dawn, and the heavens are filled with your light. You are the king of the gods, all glory and triumph are yours. The gods come at your feet like dogs, greeting you with joy in the morning. Hail thyself, O Ra, upon thy coming. When you come up, all people rejoice. You come in the morning full of joy, and you rule the world with glory. The stars of the heavens worship you. Lord of the heavens you are. Hail yourselves, O Ra, at your emergence. No one can express your glory, Lord of all wisdom and truth. The souls of the east serve you, the souls of the west are your servants. The north and the south worship you. You are worshipped, our Lord, by those whom you have created. You have brought the heavenly horizon. You make humankind rejoice. Hail thou, O Ra, upon thy coming in beauty, O Ra. The history is carved on the walls of a side room at the height of one of the inner galleries of Seti I's tomb, room 12 of the guides. One of the walls depicts a cow standing under the star-studded vault of the sky. This is Nut, the sky goddess. It is carried in the uplifted hands of the god Shu, and 2 gods carry each leg. Planets and solar ships pass over her body. The connection between this idea and the legend is very uncertain. The story occurs only in this one place, but every excavator hopes that he will find a grave where a complete copy of his history is carved on the walls one day. King Ra ruled the 2 lands. He was the 2nd king of Egypt, and under his reign, there was peace on the earth, and the crops were so abundant that people will still speak of the good things that happened in the time of Ra. By his power he created himself, and he created heaven and earth, gods and men, and ruled over them all. Hundreds and hundreds of years he reigned until he grew old, and the people feared him no more, but laughed and said, "Look, Ra, he is old, his bones are like silver, his flesh like gold, and his hair like real lapis lazuli." Then Ra was angry at hearing their jesting and laughter, and he carried out to those who were in his retinue, "Call my daughter, the apple of my eye, hither, and also the gods Sher and Tefnut, Geb and Nut, and the great god Num, whose dwelling is in the waters of the air. Secretly make my request, lest people hear and see you, for then they would be afraid and hide." In silence the messengers left very softly. They came to summon the gods and goddesses. Secretly and inaudibly, the gods and goddesses entered the house of Ra in the hidden place. The people saw or heard nothing, and they laughed at Ra again, not knowing what punishment would befall them. On either side of the throne, the gods and goddesses set themselves up and bowed down to the earth before King Ra, with their foreheads touching the ground, saying, "Speak that we may hear you." Then Ra said to Num, the great god, whose dwelling is in the waters of the air, "O elder gods, and all ye gods, behold how the men whom I have created speak to me. Tell me what you would have me do to them, for verily I will not kill them until I hear your words." Moreover, Nun, the great god, whose dwelling is in the waters of the air, answered, "Ra, my son, greatest of the gods, most powerful of kings, thy throne is established, and all the world shall fear thee, when thou thy daughter, the apple of your eye, send against them that attack you." King Ra said again, "They will flee to the deserts and the mountains and hide themselves when fear takes their hearts, because they have joked and laughed, and in the deserts and mountains no one can find them." Then gods and goddesses said, bowing their foreheads to the ground, "Send out your daughter, the apple of your eye, against them." Furthermore, suddenly the daughter of Ra came. She is called Sekhmet, and Hathor, the cruelest of the goddesses. She pounces on her prey like a lioness. She delights to murder and thirst for blood. At her father's request, she went to the two lands to kill all who had opposed King Ra, and turned their opposition into jesting and laughter. In the land of the Tamari, she killed them, and in the mountains which lie to the east and west of the great river, she turned from left to right, killing all those she met on her way, and before her fled the rebels who had risen against Ra. Moreover, Ra looked down upon the earth and cried to his daughter, the apple of his eye, "Come in peace, O Hathor. Have you done what I have given you to do?" Furthermore, Hathor laughed when she answered, and her laugh was terrible, the voice of a lioness as she tears through her prey. "By your life, O Ra," she cried, "I do to men what I will, and my heart is glad in me." Several nights the river looked red, and the goddess waded in human blood, and her feet were red as she strode through the land of Egypt to Henan Setan. Then Ra looked down upon the earth again, and his heart was filled with pity for the people, although they had risen against him. However, no one could stop the cruel goddess, not even King Ra. She even had to stop killing, for neither gods nor men could compel her. This could be obtained by cleverness alone. Ra gave the order, saying, "Call to me messengers who are swift as the storm wind." Moreover, when they came, he said, "Go to Elephantine, make haste, go quickly, and bring me the fruit that is drowsy. Be quick, for all this must be accomplished before the morning dawn." The messengers hurried, and their speed was like the storm wind. They came to Elephantine, where the great river crushes over the rocks that block her way. They took the drowsy fruit, and with the speed of the wind they brought it to Ra. Fire red and scarlet red was the fruit, and the juice was red like human blood. And the messengers brought them to Heliopolis, the city of Ra. Then the women of Heliopolis mashed barley and made beer, and they mixed the juice of the drowsy fruit with the beer, and the beer became the color of blood. They made 7,000 beer measures and brewed it hastily, for the night was almost over, and the day was about to break. King Ra and all the gods and goddesses were with him, came in haste to Heliopolis to judge the beer. Ra saw at daybreak, he gave his command, "Take this beer to the place where men and women have been killed and pour it out over the fields, before the beauty of the night is over." So they poured it out over the fields. It stood 4 palms high on the ground, and its color was the color of blood. In the morning, the wild Sekhmet came ready to kill, and going on, she looked around here and there looking for prey. Nevertheless, she saw no living creature, only those fields that lay 4 palms deep beneath the beer, which was the color of blood. Then she laughed with a laugh like the roar of a lioness, for she thought this was the blood that she had shed. Moreover, she bent down and drank. Again and again she drank and laughed louder, for the juice of the sleep-inducing fruit rose to her brain, and she could no longer see death from the juice of the fruit. Then King Ra said to her, "Come in peace, O darling." And so far, the girls of Amun have been referred to as lovers in memory. Furthermore, King Ra spoke to the goddess again, saying, "A drink will be prepared for you of the drowsy fruits. It will be made every year on the occasion of the great New Year's Eve, and the amount will depend on the number of priestesses who serve me." Furthermore, to this day, at the Feast of Hathor, drinks are made of the drowsy fruits in proportion to the number of priestesses of Ra, in remembrance of the protection of men from the wrath of the goddess.